The papyrus, put it on my table every month. I don't wanna be sad. Don't even try to hide it. No, I don't wanna lose it. And you say how it is, it's so inviting. The papyrus, we're all so alive. The papyrus.
Welcome to Papyrus TV Africa. The headlines. Enugu governor calls for state inclusion in mineral exploitation. Tinubu welcomes Danish queen to Nigeria, advocates dairy and livestock investment. Tinubu set to commission major infrastructure projects in Nasarawa. IGP opposes calls for mass civilian army, says weapons not the answer to insecurity. Emefiele seeks forensic review of WhatsApp chats in corruption trials. Vice President Shetima hails Nigeria-Brazil Green Imperative Deal. 7 states take control of electricity markets under new law. Governor Peter Ndubisimba of Enugu State has called for a significant restructuring of Nigeria's solid minerals governance architecture, advocating for the inclusion of state governments in the exploitation and management of mineral resources as a necessary step towards sustainable economic diversification and the eradication of illegal mining across the country. The governor made the call on Tuesday during a walk-in visit by the members of the Senate Committee on Solid Minerals Development, led by Senator Ekong Samson, to the government house in Enugu. In a detailed and strategic presentation, Mba emphasized that Nigeria stands at the crucial crossroad where it must either harness its vast dormant mineral resources for national development or continue to lose them to unregulated and criminal exploitation. Solid minerals hold a very huge economic opportunity for this country, particularly when we think of economic diversification, Governor Mba said, calling for a collaborative framework that enables state governments to take active role in mining operations. I am sure that you would ensure that there is more state inclusion or more state participation in the exploration and exploitation of solid minerals. Both the national and subnational governments hold very huge potential. A lot of these assets are lying dormant or largely left in the hands of illegal miners, and that must end with the work your committee is doing. He further appealed to the Senate committee to facilitate the resolution of long-standing legal conflicts arising from overlapping jurisdictions between the Nigerian Inland Waterway Act and the Mining Act, particularly regarding the right to mine sand in coastal and riverine areas. Responding, Senator Ekong Samson praised Governor Mba's visionary leadership and acknowledged Enugu State's historical and contemporary importance to Nigeria's mining economy. Enugu is not just the symbolic home of coal, it is also rich in limestone, iron ore, laterite, and silica deposits, among others. The Senate recognized the state's rich mineral profile and the potential it holds for socio-economic growth, he said. He affirmed the Senate's readiness to work with the Mba administration to unlock the state's mineral wealth in alignment with President Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has identified Nigeria's dairy and livestock sector as a high-potential economic frontier that can address food insecurity, generate rural employment, and resolve long-standing conflicts between farmers and herders. He made this assertion on Tuesday while receiving Her Majesty Queen Mary Elizabeth of Denmark at the State House in Abuja. In a warm reception jointly hosted with First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu, President Tinubu emphasized that Nigeria is prepared to deepen cooperation with Denmark on sustainable agribusiness, veterinary health systems, and green economic development. He noted that population growth projections see Nigeria expecting to exceed 400 million by 2050, necessitating urgent reforms and strategic international partnerships in food production and health. We can convert that friction into structured economic opportunity and provide education pathways even for farmers and herders. We can stabilize communities, grow our food systems, and lift millions out of poverty, the president said, while reaffirming that demography remains a central pillar of Nigeria's foreign policy and domestic development agenda. The president acknowledged Denmark's long-standing investment in Nigeria's agriculture and maritime industries and expressed optimism that countries like AP Moller Maersk and Grundfos would play a stronger role in Nigeria's infrastructural expansion and economic transformation. He also praised Denmark's humanitarian support in conflict zones, especially internally displaced persons (IDPs). Queen Mary commended Nigeria's First Lady for her Renewed Hope initiative program, expressed her intention to explore more opportunities in green economy development, women-led entrepreneurship, child health, and educational exchange. The Danish monarch will also visit Maersk's port terminal in Lagos as part of her business mission. Senator Oluremi Tinubu used the occasion to advocate for the transformation of traditional Islamic schools into formally recognized education structures, a move she described as necessary to reduce the number of out-of-school children in northern Nigeria. Queen Mary pledged to support this idea and continued engagement with Nigeria's education and healthcare development and programs through UNFPA. President Bola Tinubu is expected in Nasarawa State today, Wednesday, June 25th, for a high-profile walking visit to commission signature infrastructure projects executed by the administration of Governor Abdullahi Sule. In anticipation of the president's visit, Governor Sule undertook a final inspection of key projects on Tuesday, including the 16 billion naira Lafia flyover and underpass, the newly dualized Shandam Road, and the ultra-modern State Secretariat complex in Lafia. Commissioner for Information, Culture and Tourism, Dr. Ibrahim Tanko, said the projects represent a new era of urban renewal and economic preparedness in Nasarawa. Everything has been put in place for this visit. It will be a defining moment for us. The President will commission our overhead bridge in Lafia and pay his homage to the Emir of Lafia, His Royal Highness Justice Sidi Badje, before moving on to other key venues, Tanko told journalists. He disclosed that the President will also commission a fleet of tractors procured for farmers across the 13 local government areas and participate in a town hall meeting with stakeholders at the government house. Streets in Lafia have been repainted and relit with new LED lighting ahead of the visit, symbolizing the pride of the state in receiving the president. Inspector General of Police Akayode Egbetokun has strongly opposed recent calls by civic groups and some political voices advocating for the arming of civilians to counter rising insecurity in the country. Speaking at the second Nigeria Democracy Week in Abuja, organized by the National Democracy Stakeholders Group (NDSG), the IGP, represented by FCT Police Commissioner Ajo Adewale, warned that such proposals could plunge Nigeria into deeper chaos. Weapons are not the solution, Egbetokun stated. You solve violence by advocating peace, dialogue, and building understanding among communities. Arming civilians will only increase the complexity of our insecurity. He rejected claims of police collusion in electoral malpractice, saying the force remains neutral during elections. We're not partisans. Our role is limited to security provision during elections. We don't vote, we don't count, he said, stressing the importance of interagency collaboration and the continued retraining of officers to maintain credibility in electoral processes. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, represented by Nandungu Gagari, added that Nigeria's ongoing governance reforms under President Tinubu are crucial for democratic resilience. Democratic resilience means our systems must be able to withstand shocks whilst delivering for the people, he said. Dr. Clayt Saint Ako, chairman of NDSG, called for deeper electoral reforms, including INEC's financial independence, transparent commissioner appointments, and strict penalties for malpractice, emphasizing that governance must be rooted in electoral legitimacy. Former Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele is seeking a forensic audit of WhatsApp conversations that he claimed are central to the corruption and fraud case against him and co-defendant Henry Omoile. Arraigned on a 26-count charge of receiving gratification, corruption, and illegally conferring advantage, Emefiele submitted through his lawyer Olalekan Ojo that forensic verification is vital for ensuring transparency in the ongoing trial. The EFCC opposed the motion, arguing through counsel Chinenye Okezie that the defense failed to provide sufficient details about the forensic laboratory, personnel, or procedures to protect the integrity of the evidence. The court must remain the custodian of all exhibits until the trial concludes, Okezie said. He recommended that the EFCC's Director of Forensics should be allowed an appropriate lab and that the process be monitored by prosecution-nominated experts. Justice Rahman Oshodi has adjourned the matter until September 15, 2025 to rule on the application. Vice President Kashim Shettima has praised over $1 billion Green Imperative project as landmark in Nigeria's strategic alliance with Brazil, saying it encapsulates the shared dreams of both countries to build resilient economies based on mutual prosperity and innovation. Speaking at the opening of the second Nigeria-Brazil Strategic Dialogue Mechanism at the Presidential Villa on Tuesday, Shettima said the initiative will revolutionize mechanized agriculture in Nigeria by delivering farming equipment, training, and rural services centers nationwide. This project will create jobs, raise productivity, and help secure Nigeria's ambition to feed itself and others, he said. He also welcomed the visiting Brazilian Vice President Geraldo Alckmin and his wife, affirming Nigeria's reform-driven agenda, which includes subsidy removal, exchange rate unification, and easing of business operations. Shetima highlighted Nigeria's target of becoming a $1 trillion economy by 2030, emphasizing that agricultural and energy reforms are central to that vision. The Nigerian and Brazilian delegations pledged to deepen investment ties, with Vice President Alckmin affirming Brazil's interest in supporting sustainable agriculture and food systems in Africa's largest economy. In a historic shift that could reshape Nigeria's electricity governance, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NEC) has confirmed that 7 states, Enugu, Ondo, Ekiti, Imo, Oyo, Edo, and Kogi, have formally assumed control of their electricity markets under the provision of the Electricity Act 2023. This groundbreaking legislation, signed into law by President Bola Tinubu last year, decentralizes the electricity sector, granting states the power to generate, transmit, distribute, and regulate electricity within their borders. For the first time since Nigeria's independence, state governments now have the legal authority to directly manage the critical power infrastructure within their jurisdictions. NEC, which had until now retained sole regulatory oversight over the nation's electricity industry, has already issued transfer orders to the states that met the baseline criteria for takeover. Each transfer order initiates a 6-month transition period, during which states must establish regulatory institutions, define tariffs, and ensure full and legal technical preparedness. Enugu State has already made considerable progress by establishing its own Electricity Regulatory Commission and licensing Main Power Electricity Distribution Limited, a successor entity derived from the Legacy Distribution Company operating in the region, to function under its own state regulatory laws. Lagos, Ogun, Niger, Plateau, and Anambra states are currently in the process of finalizing their legal and technical frameworks, with transitions expected to conclude between June and September 2025. Nonetheless, significant challenges remain. Chief among them is the issue of consumer protection and equitable access. Stakeholders argue that without a robust compliance mechanism, decentralization could widen the gap between the power-rich and power-poor states, with better governed states attracting investment and underserved areas slipping further behind. Consumer advocacy leaders stress that issues such as metering, load shedding transparency, and billing disputes must be properly regulated at the state level to avoid service degradation and loss of public trust. As the 6-month transition period unfolds, all eyes are on how well states navigate this new terrain, balancing ambition with capacity, autonomy, and accountability with reform and stability. The stakes are high, and the outcomes could define the next chapter in Nigeria's long and troubled energy story.
The papyrus, put it on my table every month. I don't